You don't belong here. And frankly, I'm embarrassed you even walked through that door." The woman at the front desk didn't lower her voice when she said it. She said it the way people say things when they want everyone in the room to hear, loud enough to carry, soft enough to deny later. Dwight Calloway heard every word. He stood there in the lobby of the Harrington Grand, 12 floors of marble and polished brass, and the kind of chandeliers that cost more than most people's cars. Wearing a canvas work jacket with a frayed collar, a pair of scuffed boots that had seen better decades, and carrying a duffel bag that looked like it had been through a war. Because it had. He'd bought it in 1987 at a surplus store in Fort Bragg, and he'd taken it to Kuwait, and he'd brought it back, and he'd been carrying it ever since, because he didn't see the point in replacing something that still worked. He was 53 years old. He had a face that had been weathered by decades of decisions, some good, most hard, all his. He wasn't a tall man, but he had the kind of stillness that made people look twice, the kind of quiet that a certain type of person mistakes for weakness. That certain type was currently staring at him from behind the front desk. Her name badge said Courtney, assistant manager. She had the practiced smile of someone who had learned very early that a smile could be a weapon, and she was using it now the way a surgeon uses a scalpel, precisely, coldly, with no feeling in it at all. "Sir," she said again, though she hadn't said it the first time, "this is a private hotel. Our guests have certain expectations I think you may be looking for." "I'm not looking for anything," Dwight Calloway said. "I'm here." Courtney's smile didn't move. "I understand that. But without a reservation, I have a reservation, a beat." She looked at her screen. Her fingers moved over the keyboard the way fingers move when someone is pretending to look for something they believe isn't there. "Under what name?" "Calloway." More typing. The lobby was not busy. A Tuesday afternoon in November, a couple near the elevator with matching luggage, a bellhop moving slowly across the marble floor. But the ones who were there were listening. They always listen, they just pretend not to. "I'm not seeing anything," Courtney said. "Try the Meridian Suite." The fingers stopped. She looked up. The Meridian Suite herself started again. "The Meridian Suite is our signature accommodation. It's reserved for guests," Dwight Calloway said. "I know. I'm one." There was a pause, the kind of pause that has weight to it, the kind that people feel in their chest without knowing why. Courtney turned to her screen again, and this time her expression shifted by about 3 degrees. Not enough for most people to notice, but Dwight noticed. He had spent 31 years learning to read rooms and people and the space between words. "I'm going to need to verify your identification," she said. He reached into the inside pocket of the canvas jacket and produced a wallet, plain black leather, worn smooth at the corners, and set his driver's license on the counter. She looked at it, looked at him, looked at her screen, and a credit card for incidentals. He put the card on the counter beside the license. She picked it up, and her eyes went to the name on it, and something crossed her face that she was too practiced to let stay. "One moment," she said, and walked to the back office. Dwight Calloway stood at the counter and looked at the lobby. The chandelier above him had 240 individual crystals. He'd been told that at the acquisition meeting 14 months ago by a man from the design firm who was very proud of himself. The marble on the floors was imported. The brass on the elevator doors had been hand-polished. The painting on the east wall, the large abstract one in ochre and navy, had been chosen by a consultant who charged more per hour than most people made in a week. He had approved all of it. There was a man sitting in one of the lobby chairs, mid-40s, navy suit, the kind of tan you get from a boat rather than a beach. He had been watching since Dwight walked in, not hostile, just watching the way people watch something they're trying to figure out. Dwight gave him a small nod. The man nodded back, uncertain. Courtney returned from the back office with a colleague, a younger man, early 30s, whose name badge said Derek, and whose expression said he had been told there was a situation and had prepared for a different kind of situation than the one he was walking into. "Mr. Calloway," Derek said. He had already adjusted. Courtney had not. "My colleague tells me you're claiming the Meridian Suite," Courtney said. Claiming, Dwight let that word sit in the air for a moment. "I booked the Meridian Suite," he said, 6 weeks ago. "Through the corporate account." "What corporate account would that be?" Derek put a hand on Courtney's arm, barely, just a touch, and she stopped. "Mr. Calloway," Derek said again, "we have your reservation. I apologize for the confusion. If you'll allow me, what's the corporate account?" Courtney said, not to Derek, to Dwight. Her voice had taken on the particular tone of someone who believes they are catching someone in something. Because the Meridian Suite is contracted to Callaway Hospitality Group, and that's a private. I know who it's contracted to, Dwight Callaway said. Silence. Derek closed his eyes for just a second, opened them. Courtney's face had not moved, but something behind it had shifted. She was running calculations. Fast, the way smart people run calculations when they realize the ground may be different from what they thought. Callaway Hospitality Group, she said slowly. Yes, and you're Dwight Callaway. He said it the same way he'd said everything else. Flat and even and completely without performance. I own this hotel. The lobby was quiet enough that the couple by the elevator could hear it. The bellhop had stopped moving. The man in the navy suit leaned forward almost imperceptibly. Courtney's practiced smile did something it had probably never done before. It collapsed, not dramatically, not all at once. But the architecture of it, the controlled warmth, the professional distance, it just fell away piece by piece like stucco off an old wall. What was left underneath was something smaller, something a little frightened. I wasn't, she started. I know you weren't, Dwight said. He reached out and picked up his driver's license from the counter and put it back in his wallet. I've been owning things for 22 years. I know exactly what you weren't. Here is what Courtney did not know. Standing behind that marble counter in her assistant manager blazer. She did not know that Dwight Callaway had grown up in a 2-bedroom house in Decatur, Georgia, with his mother and 3 younger siblings, in a neighborhood where the expectations were low and the exits were narrow. She did not know that he had enlisted at 18 not because he wanted to, but because it was the clearest path out he could see, and that he had spent 11 years in the Army learning the one thing nobody had ever taught him in school. How to lead. She did not know that he had started his first business in 1998 with $11,000 in savings and a commercial lease in Chattanooga for a property that everyone told him would never turn a profit. She did not know that it turned a profit in 14 months, and that the second location opened 2 years later, and that by 2009 he was operating 4 mid-tier hotels in the Southeast and had started quietly acquiring underperforming properties that no one else wanted to bother with. She did not know about the Harrington Grand specifically, that he had watched it for 3 years before making an offer, that he had walked through it twice incognito before the purchase, that he had sat in this very lobby in different clothes and different boots and watched the staff and the guests and the flow of the place and decided it had good bones and bad management. She did not know that the previous ownership group had been grateful to sell, that the deal had closed on a Monday morning in September of the year before, and that the first thing Dwight had done after signing was drive 2 hours home to Atlanta and eat dinner with his daughter because she had a school play that night and he had promised he would be there. She knew none of this. What she knew was the jacket, the boots, the bag. People know what they decide to know. Derek escorted Dwight to the elevator personally. He was professional about it, not fawning, not overcorrecting, just steady. Dwight appreciated steady. I want to apologize, Derek said when the elevator doors closed. You don't need to apologize for something you didn't do. It happened on my watch. It happened on her watch, Dwight said. How long has she been with the property? Courtney? About 8 months. She came from the Whitmore Group. Dwight nodded slowly. He was watching the numbers above the elevator door. 4, 5, 6. She's good at the job, Derek said. The operational side. I want to be clear that this doesn't reflect the culture we're trying, Derek. Dwight said it gently. I've been in this business a long time. I know the difference between a culture problem and a person problem. I'll figure out which one this is. Derek was quiet for a moment. How will you know? I'll watch, Dwight said. I'm good at watching. The elevator opened on the 12th floor. The hallway was long and carpeted in deep burgundy, and there were 4 rooms on this level, and the Meridian Suite was at the end. Dwight Callaway walked down that hallway alone, because he had told Derek he didn't need to be shown to the room, and Derek had believed him, and that was the right call. He stood at the door for a moment before he put in the key card. 22 years of building things, and he still felt it sometimes, the particular weight of a moment before it becomes memory. He didn't know if that was a blessing or a liability. He suspected it was both. He opened the door. The room was everything the design firm had promised. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing the river, the chandelier in the sitting area smaller, but matching the lobby's crystals. The furniture in dark walnut and cream. The minibar stocked the way he'd specified in the operating standards document, not with the usual overpriced miniatures, but with regional products, a Tennessee whiskey, a Georgia cane syrup soda, a tin of boiled peanuts from a producer 3 counties over. He put the duffel bag on the luggage rack. He took off the canvas jacket and laid it over the back of the chair. He sat down on the edge of the bed, in the way people sit when they are not planning to stay but need a moment, and he looked out at the river and the November sky and the city going about its business below. He thought about his mother. She had cleaned rooms, not in a hotel like this, in a Howard Johnson off the highway outside Decatur, the kind of place where the carpet was always a little damp and the ice machine was always broken, and the guests left their rooms the way people leave rooms when they don't think anyone matters. She had cleaned those rooms for 16 years, and she had never complained about it in front of him, but he had understood from a very young age what it cost her. Not the labor, the invisibility. The way people looked through her, the way they left things. He thought about that sometimes, when he walked through lobbies. He thought about it a lot today. He came back down to the lobby 2 hours later in the same jacket, same boots. He had considered changing and decided against it. The clothes were fine. They had always been fine. The couple with the matching luggage were checking out. The bellhop was moving faster now. The evening shift picked up. Behind the front desk, Derek was there, and beside him, Courtney. She saw him come off the elevator. He watched the recognition move through her. It was quick, just a flash, but he saw it. Saw her straighten. Saw her make the decision to stay at the desk rather than find something to do in the back office. He walked to the desk. "Mr. Calloway," Derek said, "is everything to your satisfaction?" "The room is excellent," Dwight said. He looked at Courtney. "The whiskey selection is particularly good." Courtney looked at him. She had reconstituted some version of the professional mask, but it was thinner now, and they both knew it. "I'm glad," she said. "I'd like to have a word with you," he said. "Not now. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Do you know the conference room on the 2nd floor?" "Yes. I'll see you there." He didn't say it with heat. He didn't say it with the particular cold satisfaction that the moment seemed built for. He said it the way you say a thing that needs to be said, plainly, without decoration. Courtney nodded. Dwight turned and walked toward the hotel restaurant. He could feel the lobby watching him go, all of them. Derek, Courtney, the bellhop, the couple with their rolling bags. He didn't turn around. He had learned a long time ago that the most powerful thing you can do when you've just revealed something is keep moving. Don't wait for the applause. Don't stand in the moment and feed off it. Just keep moving, because there's always something else to do. The meeting was at 10. Dwight was there at 9:55, because he was always early. He had a yellow legal pad and a pen and a cup of black coffee from the lobby cafe, and he sat at the head of the conference table in the canvas jacket, because he had worn it every day of this trip and he was not going to stop now. Courtney arrived at 10 on the dot. She sat across from him. She was composed, more composed than he expected, and he raised her slightly in his estimation for it. "I know why I'm here," she said. "Good," he said. "Then we can skip some steps." She folded her hands on the table. "I made assumptions about who you were. I was wrong and unprofessional, and I understand if the consequence is—" "Stop," Dwight said, not unkindly. "I don't want a resignation speech. I want a conversation." She stopped. "Tell me what you saw when I walked in yesterday." She looked at him. A man in old work clothes carrying a duffel bag. And a pause. "And I made a judgment about—" She didn't answer right away. He let the silence sit because he was not in a hurry. "About whether you belonged there," she finally said, and that judgment was based on. Another pause, longer this time. "His appearance," she said, and then corrected herself immediately. "Your appearance." Dwight Calloway picked up his coffee and took a long drink and set it back down. "I spent 11 years in the Army," he said. "I spent 31 years building things. I have had more conversations like the one you opened yesterday than I can count, and I want you to understand something. Not because I'm trying to make you feel worse, but because I think you're smart enough to hear it." He looked at her steadily. "The jacket didn't change when I told you who I was. The boots didn't change. The bag didn't change. I didn't change. The only thing that changed was the information you had. And you need to think about why the information changed how you treated me. instead of how you treated me changing regardless of the information. Courtney was quiet for a long moment. I know, she said. And then, I don't know if that makes it better or worse. It makes it human, Dwight said. What you do with it is the part that matters. He did not fire Courtney. He thought about it. He thought about it carefully and honestly, the way he thought about every decision. Not from the gut and not from the policy manual, but from somewhere in between, where the real answers usually lived. He met with the general manager that afternoon. He met with HR. He requested the guest interaction logs for the past 6 months, not Courtney's specifically, not yet, because he wanted to know the baseline before he looked at the individual. What he found in those logs was not what he had hoped to find. There were 3 complaints, not about Courtney, from 3 different staff members over a period of 4 months. Guests of color who had felt unwelcome, who had been over-questioned at check-in, who had been asked for identification in situations where the guests on either side of them had not been. A pattern problem, then, not just a person problem. He sat with that for a while. He thought about his mother cleaning rooms in the Howard Johnson off the highway. He thought about the way she had folded the towels, exactly, precisely, with a care the guests never saw and never would see. He thought about what it would have meant to her to walk into a hotel and be treated like she mattered before anyone knew her name. He thought about what it meant to own a place like this, not just the building, the culture inside it, the invisible architecture of how people were made to feel. He called his daughter that evening. "How was the trip?" she asked. "Educational," he said. She laughed. She was 26 now, working in Chicago, and she laughed the way her mother had laughed, quick and real and with her whole face. "That means something happened. Something happened," he agreed. "You okay?" "I'm good," he said. And then, because it was true, "I'm real good." He was back in the lobby at 7 the next morning, in the jacket, in the boots, with the duffel bag over his shoulder. He was checking out. He had a flight to Atlanta at 10 and 2 more properties to visit before the end of the month and a board call on Thursday that he was not looking forward to. Derek was at the desk. "Mr. Calloway," Derek said. "I hope the stay was." "It was good," Dwight said. "The room was everything it should be. The restaurant was better than I expected." He paused. "The service has room to grow." Derek nodded carefully. "We're committed to making that happen." "I know you are." Dwight slid the key card across the counter. "I'm going to send someone from the corporate office to do a culture assessment in January. Not a surprise audit. I'll give you the date. I want it to be a conversation, not a trap. I appreciate that. Don't appreciate it. Use it." He picked up the duffel bag. "The bones here are good, Derek. I didn't buy a bad property. I need the people to match the building." He walked toward the door. Near the entrance, in one of the lobby chairs, the man in the Navy suit from Tuesday was back. Or maybe it was a different man in a similar suit. Dwight wasn't sure. Either way, the man was watching him the way the first man had watched him, with that look of someone trying to put something together. Dwight stopped. "You been here a few days?" he asked. The man looked startled at being addressed. "Since Monday," he said. "Good hotel." The man hesitated. "It's beautiful. I saw what happened at the front desk Tuesday afternoon." "Did you?" "I should have said something," the man said. He said it without performance, without drama, just a plain statement of fact. "When she spoke to you that way, I heard it and I didn't say anything." Dwight looked at him for a moment. There was no calculation in the man's face, just honesty, the uncomfortable kind, the kind that costs something. "Most people don't," Dwight said. "I know. That's what I keep thinking about." Dwight shifted the bag on his shoulder. "When it happens again, and it will, somewhere, someone, say something." "Yeah," the man said. "Not for me," Dwight said. "For the times when the person doesn't own the building." He walked out through the brass doors into the November morning, into the cold and the gray and the city noise, and he did not look back. The bag was still the same bag. The jacket was still the same jacket. He had never needed them to be anything else.